Bart Sells His Soul is an episode in which, Bart sells his soul. At the end of this episode, it is revealed that Lisa bought his soul back from Comic Book Guy and everything turns out okay. However, this reveal creates a minor plot hole that isn't completely explained. Today we'll attempt to answer 3 questions. When exactly did Lisa buy Bart's soul? How did she know where to find it? And finally, does any of this even matter? Okay, let's be upfront right here. This seems like kind of a stupid and pointless topic for analysis. Obviously the writers couldn't have shown Lisa finding Bart's soul because it completely ruins the surprise ending. There are a lot of little explanations you could come up with that answers my questions. And the episode is really about Bart anyway, so the Lisa stuff doesn't seem that important. After all, the episode is called Bart Sells His Soul, not Lisa Buys Bart's Soul. That title would sound kinda predatory. But whatever the case is, I will contend that if you read between the lines, there's an interesting and subtle little Lisa story that we barely even get to see. Let's look at Lisa's role in the episode and I'll show you what I mean. Lisa first enters the picture when Bart tries to prank her. This is when she finds out about Bart's deal. She is immediately concerned about it, warning him that Milhouse may own him for a zillion years. Later she witnesses Bart's sudden inability to laugh at Itchy and Scratchy and prepares a test for him. Overall, she finds the situation very disturbing, characterizing it as creepy at this point. Here's the part that gets weird from a characterization angle. When the family goes to Uncle Mo's family feed bag for dinner, she delivers a very taunting prayer, designed to infuriate her older brother. Now why does she do this? It seems to come out of nowhere. Up to this point, Lisa is shown to be completely on Team Bart. Sure, he tried to prank her early on, but I doubt she was particularly scarred by those crappy sponges. I think the accepted argument is that this is regular brother-sister hazing and Lisa didn't realize how traumatizing this prayer actually would be. But look at that smile on her face. This is not exactly what we'd call an oh crap expression. Call me crazy, but it's almost as if she knows exactly what she's doing. So I wonder, why push his buttons at this particular moment? Is Lisa already in possession of Bart's soul right here? And if not, what does she actually know? To figure this out, let's do a rundown of this particular evening. That's right, Bart Sells His Soul just turned into Trilogy of Error. We know that Bart's soul was purchased by Lisa on the same night they went to Uncle Mo's. We know this because Bart stormed out during dinner, camped out all night, and is told by Comic Book Guy in the morning that it was sold quote-unquote last night. The family went to dinner when it was starting to get dark outside. This means, after Bart left the restaurant, Lisa must have gone to the android's dungeon. It's possible that Lisa could have done it right before dinner and Comic Book Guy just considers 5 or 6 p.m. nighttime. However, I think it's more likely that Homer and Marge just drove her there afterwards. Or maybe just Marge, since Homer had to go back to the bar and torture Moe. So now the $64,000 question is, how did Lisa know to go to the comic book store? It's not like she's just going to wander in there herself during a shopping spree. If you know that Bart sold it to Milhouse, why would you even think it would be there? I mean, she could have just guessed that Milhouse is an idiot, which is admittedly possible, but more than likely she would have had to get this information from Milhouse himself earlier that day. I mean, why not just go straight to the source? She couldn't have tracked him down after dinner because remember, he had already moved to his grandma's by then. Also, Bart was already hot on his trail. It seems much more likely that she found Milhouse earlier that day and he spilled the beans. Milhouse was being less than cooperative with Bart earlier, but I suspect he would have been a little nicer to his supposed sweet Babu. The whole Milhouse crushing on Lisa story wasn't really established until later on in Season 8, but it probably didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Hell, we could argue that this episode was the genesis of that thing if we really wanted to go crazy, but I digress. The weird thing about the structure of Bart Sells His Soul is that we barely get to see anything from this particular day. We saw a ton of the previous day, but after Bart goes to bed and has a surreal dream, the very next scene is the family going to dinner the following evening. Every scene takes place at dusk or later, except for this particular scene where the sunset mysteriously goes back a couple of hours. I suspect that this actually happened earlier and the writers Tarantino'd this for story flow purposes, but whatever the case is, there's pretty much a whole day unaccounted for. It's really up to conjecture what actually happened and what order it happened in, but this is the way that I'm piecing it together. Milhouse's family moves out early in the morning so the circus can get to work. Later in the day, Milhouse goes to the android's dungeon and trades Bart's soul for some magic beans. Lisa eventually tracks him down, trying to convince him to stop being a douchebag. Milhouse tells her about the deal and then asks her if she remembers Alf, and then he tells her that he's back, in Pog form. Lisa disgustedly goes home. So at this point, Lisa knows exactly where Bart's soul is and is probably thinking of how to resolve the situation. So the family goes to dinner. Lisa delivers her prayer and Bart storms out of the restaurant. Homer eats his spaghetti and mo balls. Lisa goes to the comic book store, purchases Bart's soul, and goes home. Bart finally returns the following morning and Lisa gives him his piece of paper back. Warm and fuzzy moments commence. Also paper eating. Looking at it from that perspective, it makes Lisa's prayer at dinner make a little more sense. Lisa is in total control of the situation, knowing exactly where Bart's soul is, so provoking him really isn't a risky venture. Unless of course comic book guy already sold the thing, or Bart gets run over by a street sweeper. That would probably be an awkward conversation to have with her parents. But at this point, Lisa could expect that everything was going to turn out okay. There remains a question of the ethics of her teasing Bart like that, which is where the situation gets a little gray. Obviously the super duper nice thing to do would be to simply tell Bart about the Alf Pogs. The kid has clearly suffered a bit already, so maybe she should just give him a break. So we can probably agree that Lisa didn't take the 100% nice route in this story. I'm not saying she was an evil hag or anything either, because she obviously saves the day in the end. I'm just pointing out that Lisa toyed with her brother just a little bit. I think her real motivation was that she just wanted her brother to learn a lesson. After all, she did give him a lecture about how people have to earn one's soul. It's not the worst thing in the world to want someone to learn a lesson. You can interpret how that reflects on her character however you want. Some people really hate self-righteous Lisa. I personally think that, while Lisa decided to mess with her brother, she didn't necessarily plan the thing out in advance or anything. I imagine she probably felt pretty bad about it afterwards and went ahead and bought the soul herself because of it. Maybe her original idea was teasing him and then just telling him where it was. Lisa going and purchasing it herself demonstrates that she's willing to take some personal responsibility for setting these wheels in motion. And because she actually cares about her brother, she's more than willing to make the situation right. So in other words, I'm taking the Lisa's not a total jackass interpretation. At the end of the day, I've gone through a lengthy analysis to prove something that was already kind of implied. That's the internet for you. But I think if you watch the episode from Lisa's point of view, you'll get an interesting look at the Bart-Lisa dynamic. In a lot of ways, Bart sells his soul as like a companion piece to Round Springfield. Sometimes the key to happiness is simply having your sibling show up out of nowhere at the end of Act 3. It doesn't always make a hell of a lot of sense, but it's a darn good ending.